Okay, so today we are going to talk about navigating the pandemic job and internship market. And as we all know, today's labor market is drastically different than it was, 14 months ago, 7 months ago, and even 1 month ago. This pandemic and all the changing laws, the protocols, the restrictions have significantly impacted the market, making it very difficult to navigate for some and overwhelming for folks who are currently looking for work, right, or thinking about looking for work. So that's why we decided to do this presentation. It's an opportunity for you to gain more clarity about what's going on in the market, so that you can make more of an informed decision about your future career plans. So I will do this in 3 ways. First, I'll talk about the dichotomy or the difference of experiences that I've been hearing from employers and job seekers right now. For example, on one hand, I'm hearing from employers that no one wants to work, right? It's hard to find folks that want to work. And then from the job seeker side, I've been hearing that there are no good jobs out there, right? So the second thing that I'll be covering today is, one strategy to cultivate a job search mindset, in the time of uncertainty and fear, which is, right now with the pandemic. And then lastly, I'll share some data and some resources about the labor market to kind of inform your job and internship search. All right. And as a reminder, if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat box. I will be monitoring the chat box as I go through the presentation. And if you guys have comments too, feel free to add them in the chat box. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with what's going on with the market right now. So, a big part of my job here at Kapiolani Community College is to stay up to date with the local labor market. I read government resources, industry articles, attend webinars, follow thought leaders and organizations with expertise in this topic. And I've also talked to a lot of local employers as well. A lot of employers reach out to me to recruit our students, and I've been hearing what they've been going through. Just in this past month, I've just seen an increase in recruiting efforts. And from their perspective, what they've shared with me is that they have lots of opportunities and they haven't been able to find people that want to work. I think from your perspective, if you've watched the news, you might have heard about it. There's a lot of businesses that are limiting their hours and services because they don't have enough staff. So, what's going on? The most common reason that employers share with me is that extra money, that people are getting while they're unemployed. So in other words, people don't want to go back to work because of that extra money, and that's enough to kind of keep them at home. But I think it seems like there might be more to it, and it's not necessarily the extra money, or maybe it's in addition to other factors that are complicating the decision for folks to return to work. And you guys might, some of these things might be related to you. So for some people, it's the lack of childcare. Not all schools hold, their classes in person right now. Not all children is on that, their same in the family have the same schedules. So, these parents have to stay at home because they, have to watch their kids, or it's difficult to find a job or keep a job that allows for such flexibility. Another thing is the fear of catching COVID, especially if they're not vaccinated, and combined with that apprehension about transitioning back to work after all of this time not working, or even folks just kind of waiting it out a bit, waiting about a little bit longer before they make their move, right? This is another thing that's impacting their decision not to work. Another thing I've heard is, from some of my students, in particular, the jobs they see advertised just don't pay enough. And obviously this is, for certain industries, not all industries. So it really depends on what you're looking for. And then one of the more interesting things that I've read, and actually it was from the University of Hawaii Research Office, that's kind of impacting employers' ability to find good talent, is that Hawaii's population is smaller than it was before the pandemic. So basically a lot of people of working age left Hawaii and moved out of state. And so the workforce pool that employers have to pick from has reduced. So what does this all mean for you, right? The folks here that are watching. So I'm assuming you're here today or watching in the future because you are looking for work. And so I think this is kind of good news for you. If this is what's happening now, you know, competitions for jobs is a little bit lower. And then you have a better chance at landing a job. So, and for the folks that are thinking of switching careers, you know, you're not alone. And I've talked to recruiters who are more receptive than ever to folks, you know, that are career switchers. So I think regardless of your situation, this window of opportunity is also limited. So, you know, soon enough, more people will become vaccinated, more people will become comfortable working again, looking for work, and that extra unemployment benefits will end. And so once those benefits end, all those people will flood the labor market again. So this is the right time to start looking for a job. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. All right. So the second thing I want to cover is mindset. So, you know, as a career counselor, I know that for most people, their job search success is influenced in part by their feelings and their beliefs, regardless of whether there is a pandemic or not, right? And so, but for right now, what's going on, you know, we're on the verge of hopefully moving past this pandemic. And for most of us, you know, that are here today, it's been a long 14 months, right? And there's a lot of trauma and grief and anxiety kind of wrapped up in that. And I want to talk about anxiety in particular, because a lot of it, what we feel right now, you know, tends to be because we fear of the unknown. And it seems like in this time of transition, there seems to be a lot of unknown. However, that doesn't mean that everything in our lives are unknown or are unknown. And so a common strategy to kind of overcome that anxiety, you know, of that unknown, the fear of the unknown, is to assess what's in our control and what is out of our control, and then focus on what is in our control. So I'll say that again. The strategy to cultivate, you know, a job search mindset is to assess what is in our control, assess what is out of our control, and then focus all our energies on what is in our control. So when it comes to, you know, career and employment, you know we don't have control over the future, you know, but we can control our ability to self-reflect, to help us clarify what we want for our future. We can better understand, you know, who we are and the type of careers that we want, right? That will keep us engaged and satisfied. We do not have control over the economy or when, you know, when our jobs will come back, what kind of jobs will come back, but we can control our ability to reskill, to upskill, so that we become better equipped to be agile and sidestep more quickly into different opportunities, no matter the health of the economy, right? No matter whether or not there's a pandemic going on. You know, another thing is we don't have control over a company's hiring process, right? But we do have control over our ability to seek help on improving our resume writing, our interviewing, the job search strategies that we're using, so that we feel better prepared during the hiring process, right? Another thing is that we know we don't have control over the challenges, you know, the obstacles, the criticisms that are inevitable in our job search process, but we do have the ability to maintain our professionalism throughout that process, right? Which is about embracing these challenges, being persistent and proactive, and learning from our mistakes. So those are just some things to keep in mind. I know it's easy for me to kind of just say all this, and you know, all of us are on kind of different paths on how we deal with that anxiety in the time of a pandemic. But I will say it is possible to ease that power, those anxious feelings that you might have, and the thoughts that you might have, so that you can really intentionally focus your energy and your attention on specific action. Okay. So now for the rest of today's presentation, you know, we're going to talk about data and we're going to talk about resources. At this point, I guess moving forward, since you're not going to be able to immediately get the video, it'll come later. I encourage you to take screenshots because I will be listing or take notes. Screenshots might be better because I might go pretty quickly, but there's going to be websites and resources I'm going to be mentioning. So, and if you want to be able to access them, you're going to have to take the screenshot or write down the links to those resources. So I'm going to talk about 5 specific steps that you can take to inform your job or your internship search. So in other words, what you can do to explore, the options that are available to you within the labor market. So we'll start with the first. And the first thing you want to do is take a look at the big picture and understanding what's happening in the local labor market. So there's very common data sets that you'll see out there. So for example, you'll see, top in-demand industries or industries with the most job openings right now, fastest growing industries in the next 10 years, top occupations with the most openings, and then the highest paying occupations. And so these are very helpful for you to know because you might want to consider pursuing industries, right, that are growing and have lots of options for you to enter in, transition to, or even grow in, right? Or because you want to consider pursuing jobs because there's plenty of organizations, right, hiring for that specific job, or the pay is really good, right? And those are the things that you're looking for. I think it's also helpful to look at this data because the reverse is also true. The data can also reveal what's not in demand, right? What's not growing, and what doesn't pay enough for you, right? And so that might be something you don't want to explore. For students in particular, projected industry information can be one data point that they can help them with academic goals. So for example, you might want to choose, a major, a program or certificate if you're going back to school or going to school that is required in the industries, with plenty of opportunities or growth potential, right, by the time you graduate or done with your certificate. Or you might want to consider choosing majors that lead to jobs where you make enough money to afford the lifestyle that you want in the future. So on the screen here, you guys will see some great resources for these data sets. So like I said, be sure to take a screenshot or take notes of these links. And it includes like Hawaii is Hiring, the website. So I'm sure if you guys attended today, you've been to their website already. I strongly encourage you to check it out. On their front page, they have a list of the top openings in Hawaii, as well as Hawaii's in-demand industries. So you'll notice here, these are actually the industries that the state of Hawaii wants to kind of focus on right now. Hawaii Career Explorer, which is a University of Hawaii Community College website that features a lot of different types of data. That's also a great resource. One resource that I like from the Hawaii Career Explorer is a lifestyle quiz. It's very interesting. So if you're somebody that's kind of figuring out like how much money you think you'll need in the future for the kind of lifestyle that you want, you can take a little quiz there and it'll tell you, how much you're going to be making, how much you need to make every year in order to afford the lifestyle that you want, right? And then for national data, a good resource or the standard resource out there is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Another thing I do want to, mention with when it comes to reviewing industry trends is to search for industry associations. And you can do that with the bit.ly link that you see here on the screen. Associations are a great way to learn more about, an industry, stay up to date with the news and the trend, webinars and conferences. And then lastly, LinkedIn. For folks that might not be already aware, it's kind of like social media but for professionals. And what I liked about LinkedIn is you can follow local and national thought leaders that do discuss labor market reports and data. LinkedIn also has an economic reports that they regularly publish. They have blog posts and tons of resources. So I also do recommend that. Okay, So we'll move on to the next step, which is researching organizations. So once you have an idea of what industries you want to focus on, then you want to be able to dive into exploring organizations that exist within the industry that have the type of jobs or internships that you are interested in. So, researching organizations is really important because it'll help you with two things. So one, it will narrow down your search, right, and make the actual job search more manageable and less overwhelming. And then two, it'll help you prepare for future interviews. So resources to research organizations include everything here you see on the screen. And as you can see, one of the methods I like to encourage people to do when they're researching organizations is to review best places to work lists. So Hawaii Business Magazine has a great list that they publish every year, and they also publish top employer profiles. So those are great resources if you're looking to stay in Hawaii and looking for the best place to work in Hawaii. Another thing that you do not see here on the screen, but you should do if you're already not doing it when you are looking for a job, is to go to the website of the company, but also the social media channels. With social media in particular, you can learn so much about the type of culture, workplace culture that the organization has just based on how they brand themselves on social media, right? You can see whether an organization is, more progressive, more relaxed, more conservative, right? Those are things that you can see just from the way that they post on social media or what they post on social media. Another thing I do want to mention here, especially about internships. So if there's students here that are looking for internships, one of the most common issues that I see when students are looking for internships is that they're unaware of the recruiting timelines for internships. So most internships here in Hawaii, or most internships on the summer, right? And for most organizations here in Hawaii, their internship programs, they start recruiting as early as January and February. So you need to keep that in mind. January and February. And then March and April is when they have that interview process. And then they make offers in time for internships to starting in May and June. So if you're looking for a summer internship this summer, you're already kind of missed the boat, right? You should have already been looking in January, the January timeframe. So something to consider for next time in the future is to start your search early on. And I also will say, since I do also have experience, counseling students with their careers on the mainland, if you're a student that is interested looking for internship in the mainland, and especially for very competitive, internships in industries like consulting, finance, and maybe some tech companies, their timelines are a little bit different. I've seen them recruit a whole year in advance, so that's something to think about. Okay, so the third thing you might want to consider when you are navigating the job and internship pandemic market is to evaluate the skills required for the job. So, I mean, this sounds like it's common sense, right? But I find the extent to which people do this is to review job descriptions. So yes, reviewing job descriptions is one thing that you can do. You can also read occupational profiles on Hawaii Career Explorer, like I mentioned before, or even the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which I provided the links before as well. Or you can go to a place like Career One Stop. You'll see that on the screen here, to watch videos about different jobs and what people do in those jobs. However, one of the best strategies to understand what skills are required to do the job is to actually ask a person who has that job. So this is what we call conducting informational interviews. The purpose of an informational interview is to gather information, resources, and professional advice. And it's not, only about getting more information about career paths, but also academic programs, organizations, and other professional development goals that you might have. So a good example is myself. So when I decided that I wanted to change careers, my first career was in accounting. and I decided to change careers into higher education career services. I did this about 6 years ago. I knew very little about working in higher education and working in a career center. I didn't even go to a career center when I went to college at Manoa. So what I did was use my network to find people or find people who knew people that worked in a career center. And I used LinkedIn for this because I had a network already on LinkedIn. And I asked people for 20 minutes of their time. I asked people who are working in those jobs, right? Ask them for 20 minutes of their time and ask them a whole bunch of questions that I prepared for ahead of time to really get a better understanding of what they didn't like, their challenges, advice of what I could be doing now before I apply to jobs, online resources to kind of check out, and then, what they recommend and who they recommend that I talk to, right? Other people I could talk to. So I, I love this strategy, and why I also love it is because it's a chance for you to build relationships, right, with local people in the industry. So in other words, an opportunity for you to network. And then if you're a student, the best people to interview is alumni from your school. I would also say for folks that are not students, alumni from your alma mater is also a good strategy to connect with. These people are more likely to want to help you because they know what it's like to be in your shoes, right? When they were in school, they were taking the same classes, and they understand that it's such a critical time to making important decisions about the future, and having that extra support, right? Giving it that advice is certainly very valuable for them, kind of helping them not make the same mistakes that they might have had in the past, right? So there's also one more resource I do want to mention. So for the folks here that have work experience and are interested in exploring a new career based on skills that they've already have from their previous experience, I would strongly recommend MZ's skills tool for this. So you'll see that on the screen here. MZ is a leading labor data company, and actually they're the source for University of Hawaii Community College's Hawaii Career Explorer website, and they have all this data about the labor market for us, and they use it to inform the career path recommendations that they make on this website. So I strongly recommend for folks interested in kind of exploring different careers based on skill sets they already have to kind of use that tool. Okay, and so the fourth thing I want to talk about is reflection. I find a lot of people don't do this, or if they do this, they don't really prioritize a lot of time on this. And the thing is, like, even if you do two of the things I talked about, previously, you're going to end up with a lot of information right in front of you. So to kind of make sense of it all, there are some questions here that you can ask yourself to kind of reflect on what you've learned from all of that information. So definitely take a screenshot of that. So for example, what information stood out to you that was more meaningful for you? What stood out to you? How does that information impact the decision you're trying to make right now? Where can you focus your attention and your energy next, right? So those are some three good questions to kind of ask to yourself after taking in all that information from the previous steps. And because we're in a global pandemic or getting out of one, I think it's also important to factor in how COVID-19 has impacted your decisions. So has the pandemic really reaffirmed or validated, your goals, your plans, or the decisions that you're making? Has a pandemic, made you rethink about what you're doing with your life right now? What you plan to do in the future, or who you want to serve or who you want to help. So in this past year, I've talked to a lot of folks who, those with jobs, without jobs, went back to school, trying to get some training before they go back into the workforce. And this pandemic has truly made a difference in their career decisions, and it has driven them to make different career choices. So reflecting, in this particular instance is really crucial for planning, purposes. So for instance, the information that you learn might reveal that you'll need additional training, right? That you might need other skills, experience, or education to pursue a job or career. You might learn about new industries, internships, or jobs or resources you want to do more research on. You might also learn that you might want the exact job or internship that you really want to apply to, right? The opposite is also true, right? You could end up crossing off jobs you thought you wanted to pursue, and now you need to reassess what to do next, right? Which is a good thing, I think. It's better to figure out figure out now, before you're in a job or career that you're not going to be unsatisfied or you're not going to be engaged with, right? So those are, if you guys want to take screenshots, please do. These are some questions for the reflection part. And then lastly, talking about what to do next, it's coming up with a plan. So these are some prompts I on the screen kind of help you get started on this. And so for most people, at this point, the goal might be choosing to go to school or maybe go back to school for a degree or a certification. Or it might be to attend, short-term training sessions or doing an apprenticeship, or the goal might be other ways to get experience, right, and gain skills that you might need before you can look for a new job, right? And so that could be like volunteering for a nonprofit or a civic organization. It could be freelancing. It could be, doing fellowships, starting a side hustle. I think in addition to all of that too, like for students, you can join a club on campus, get that experience, participate in sports, help your instructor or your professor with a research project, or you can do things like enter competitions, right? So those could be like some goals for some. But for most, at this point, you've done all that research, you've identified the skills that you need, you reflected on this pandemic and how that's changed your career goals. And for you, you might be at that point where it is to start looking for a job or an internship, and then determining what actions, right, you want to take from that. So fortunately, the next workshop in this series is entirely about job search strategies. So, if you're looking for those exact steps to take for that job search or that internship search, then I encourage you to attend next week's event. We'll get those steps that you can take. All right, guys. So that's my presentation on this topic. I do want to mention and kind of highlight all the murals that you saw that I use in my presentation is from Paua, Hawaii and Kaka'ako. And you can see the murals and their artists that are listed here on the slide. And so hopefully that was fun for you to look at while listening to, about these resources and the information that I shared. And then if you want to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome to reach out to gethired@hawaii.edu. So if you have questions, just shoot me an email there. I also encourage you to go to the Hawaii is Hiring website. They have tons and tons of resources. Not only does it have data for you to kind of reflect on, but it also has links to finding jobs and internships and apprenticeships. So it's great resource. And if you go to the website you see on the screen with the /events, you can look up all the other events that we have in this career coaching lunch hour series. So that's all I had. I do. So I realize this was a short presentation, but if you, I'm going to be available now to take questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or if you have any comments, I love to hear them. So yeah, take advantage of this time now. Kitty, do you see anything on your end?
Hi, Sue. Nothing on my end yet. I'm also monitoring the Q&A portion.
Oh.
But if there are no questions for now, at least, please feel free to reach out to us. We have the hawaii.edu address posted there. You can also reach out to Hawaii is Hiring at hawaiiishiring@cochawaii.org if you have any specific questions on site offerings. So please feel free to stay in touch with us that way as well. But if there are no further questions, just wanted to say thank you so much, Sue. That was a really informative and helpful presentation. Like we mentioned before, these presentations will be available shortly on a brand new page on Hawaii is Hiring that we're currently compiling. So a lot of the websites like the UH Career Explorer, the Career One Stop and other sites like that, those will all be available for you there to revisit. And so we will be launching that soon. We're still working on it, but the goal is to have a dedicated webinar and training page for you folks to access past webinars. So we'll be launching that for you folks soon. And then also, like Sue mentioned, this is a perfect segue into next week's webinar, which is titled Job Search Strategies for Success. And that one is going to be with Julie Patau. She's an assistant professor and the career link director over at UH Maui College. So she'll be our guest speaker next week. And feel free to get the webinar link for that also at hawaiiishiring.com/events. And that one will be next week, Wednesday, June 9, also at noon. And if there are no further questions, just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have questions. And if not, we will hopefully see you all next week. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for attending.